Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. It's Rhiannon, and I have a very special guest with me today, Bente. They are the Norse Witch on YouTube and all social media, as far as I know. And I'm very excited to dive into this because they're both a Norse pagan and a witch in practice. And if you'd like to introduce yourself a little bit to the listeners, Bente, I let them know a little bit about yourself and your practice, just in case they're not familiar with who you are.
Sure. Hi, I'm Bente. I'm from Germany, so if I have a weird accent, that is why. I like to say that in the beginning so that everyone knows that I'm not just talking strangely. Um, yeah, as you already said, like I'm on mainly on YouTube, but also on basically any other social media platform. I'm annoying everyone everywhere. Uh, I'm a dirty heathen and a witch, mainly informed by like Scandinavian practices, both pre-Christian and now also I'm kind of getting into Scandinavian folk magic. So it's a little bit from everywhere, but I'm still, of course, also doing like more modern witchcraft things. I like my candle spells. I won't give up on them. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, welcome to the show. I did want to preface this with what your general definition of Norse paganism is, because for so many it could be very different, and sometimes it's very hard to kind of nail down a definition. So, for yourself, what is Norse paganism to yourself?
Um, Interesting. For me, it is definitely not just working with the Norse gods, because you can work with, in my opinion, you can work with the Norse gods without being necessarily a full-on Norse pagan or heathen. Um, in my opinion, it's more than that. Like, as soon as you kind of dive deeply into the whole mythology and cosmology, and you kind of understand also how the other spirits work, because in Norse paganism, the other spirits are basically as important as the gods are. So it's not just working with Norse gods that makes you a Norse pagan, in my opinion. Yeah, it's about basically like the whole thing.
The whole experience of it all.
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like that's very similar to myself, where I have so many different practices I'm reaching into at the moment, and I'm kind of just like melding them all together. And I was trying to define each of them. And it's kind of hard to do that because for me, it's the experience as a whole, because
Yeah.
these practices I'm in are not closed. So it's not just working with the deities and following their teachings, it's a whole lot of the experience of living the life of what you are practicing. So it's very different. That's why I wanted
Yeah,
to kind of touch on that.
definitely. 100% agree.
So I was curious, what called you to witchcraft and paganism? I know we all have different experiences when it comes to what kind of like attracted us to different paths. And I know mine is very similar to yours, I think, when you had the introduction to Wicca. But what kind of like first sparked your interest in like paganism and witchcraft?
Mhm. So I feel like I'm always one of the very little people who didn't break out of Christianity or who wanted like a way out of Christianity. So for me, it was pure coincidence. I wasn't even interested really in any religions at that point. I was previously, because I kind of dabbled in Christianity and Buddhism, but wasn't really for me. And then I became very like nihilistic kind of, and very much an atheist, and then like completely randomly stumbled upon a video by Harmony Nice, which I feel like that's the case for so many people.
Yes.
um
Love her.
yeah. And that's how I found out about Wicca. I still find it interesting that I never was into anything spiritual or esoteric, and randomly got this video on YouTube recommended to me. I still wonder why, but I guess it was supposed to be. And then I stumbled like head first into it, like full on in the rabbit hole, reading a million different books as fast as I could. Um, how I like to do with new hobbies and stuff. Yeah.
That's awesome. I actually like I remember when I discovered Harmony's channel, it was my first like stumbling upon any type of like spiritual YouTuber. And I actually got a notebook out and I was like writing down everything she
Yeah.
talked about and took notes. And I was like, because I had been spiritual for so long and I didn't really have like a nailed down like definition of what it was. I was just practicing occultism and witchcraft without really realizing what it was I was doing. And I was like, this is probably the thing that I've been like doing. Like, what is this? I was like writing everything down. But then later I realized it's not exactly the practice that works with me. I don't really resonate with all of the main focuses of certain beliefs. So then I was like, okay, I am just a witch.
I still find it funny that I think the first thing that got me off Wicca actually was the whole deity part.
Yeah.
And now I'm a Norse pagan.
Mhm.
It kind of doesn't really make sense because in the first, like at first I didn't want to work with any deities or gods or goddesses or spirits or anything like that. And
Mhm.
now I'm a Norse pagan and like a hyper animist, and it's like kind of weird.
Yeah. That's the same thing for me. I definitely vibed with the goddess aspect, but when it came to the god aspect, I had been like raised in Protestant belief systems my whole life and has been under the reign of a male figure for very long. So I was like, I just really want to really hyper focus on the feminine aspect and see what that's like first. And so like a lot of Wicca, they focus on the Lord and the Lady, and I was just like, I'm just gonna focus on the goddess for right now and
Let's just
I'll
ignore
revisit.
the Lord.
Yeah, but now I have two, so I have Artemis and I'm working with Apollo as an offering to Artemis. But yeah, it was about 5 years of like straight, like, no, I'm just not going to look at that.
I feel like that's a thing for a lot of people though, especially like people, of course, who came from Christianity. Um, yeah, I feel like that's probably what pulls a lot of people to Wicca is like the fact that you have both.
Yes. Yeah, it gives you ability to move between the two or work with both. And I think a lot of us, we just really like options. We don't like to be limited in a lot of ways. So I feel like the more options you have, the better. Thus, pantheons. So
Yeah, definitely.
yeah, so I was curious just because I have been asking this of a lot of people that have been on the show lately, just because it's been something that's been like really bothering me because everyone's on my comments asking about daily routines and um being so hyper fixated on it. And I'm like, you guys, it's just a methodology of getting into it. So I kind of want to like debunk a little bit of like what actual practitioners, what their daily lives are like, because I feel like the beginners are really like so worried about this and they're causing so much anxiety for themselves and I just need to relax. So if it's not too personal, what is your daily like magical practices like on a daily basis?
hmm so I have had multiple daily routines now at this point because I feel like you always have to kind of adjust your routines to what your life currently looks like. So for example, like in the whole summertime, I woke up earlier than I do now, for example, because it was just light outside earlier, so I could wake up earlier and do more in the like before work because I work a normal 9 to 5, so of course I have to fit everything in before work. And I did much more than I do now. For example, I did a daily rune and tarot card pull. That was always very important to me. I did like a mini meditation, like 2 to 5 minutes, maybe something like that. Always changed the water offerings for my ancestors and all the gods and goddesses every single morning, and kind of lit all of their candles and spent time with them and yada yada yada. So it was a whole thing. It went pretty quickly, like maybe 20 minutes or so. But right now I do much less than that because yeah, it's winter. So the sun doesn't come up until like 9,
Yeah.
and that's usually when I'm already working. So I do much less now, maybe the really daily things that I do is like kind of letting fresh air in from every kind of window, and that's, I just realized that's the most German thing I've ever said. It's
Yeah.
called Stoßlüften, and that's just a thing that Germans do every single morning. You open all the windows and all the doors, and everything gets some fresh air. And I feel like that's a very great, like, minor mini cleansing. I really love doing that. But basically everything else I kind of now scrapped from my morning routine and put it more into specific days of the week. So for example, I give instead of giving one very small offering of water every day, I give a bigger offering to the gods and goddesses and my ancestors on Saturdays, for example. Or instead of, I don't know, I didn't have my money bowl back then, but I would have probably done that also daily because I was hyper daily practicer. I now do that on like Thursdays, and instead of doing a daily rune and tarot pull, I like doing more of a bigger reading weekly, things like that. I don't know, at the moment that kind of works better for me, but it probably also will change because, yeah, I feel like it's so important to adjust your routines to what your life actually looks like in the moment.
Yeah, I totally agree. One, I want to say I love that whole opening the windows and everything. That's a beautiful practice and something I should do more because we are snowed in most of the year. So when we do have more of a milder day, I would like to open the windows and just let everything in because everything is so stagnant here. And it's part of like the problem why I get so like seasonally depressed because I can't go outside. There's not enough light. Everything's kind of gray and I want to be in
Wow,
the fresh air. I want to go hiking, but it's minus 40 outside, so I can't.
that's crazy.
We actually just had a minus 50, like a record chill because of some weird thing in weather, and I hated life.
I would just die. It rarely gets like even minus degrees in general. Like
Mm,
it's already very cold when it's like -5.
yeah, yeah. It's weird how you get used to it too. Like when my family goes down to Arizona, they start getting cold when it's like +10 out, and they're like freezing, and I'm like, I would be in a t-shirt and sandals and running around. Like that's warm to me. Like, what are you guys talking about? You have a sweater on and a winter jacket. Aren't you sweating?
I I
um
I just, I just realized though I still have a daily routine. I still do
hmm.
my daily meditations. My daily meditations will stay forever. That's it's like such an important thing, but I don't do that in the mornings because nah.
No, I feel like it gets me very zen, and I did that for an entire year. Actually, I did a challenge to do a meditation of some form every day for a year to kind of get it cemented into my practice. And now I want to do the meditations. I feel better with them. I don't do them every day, but now I have a new thing. So I'm starting on yoga every day for the year.
That's also
Just
great.
really helped to like ground into my body because I feel like I love it so much, but then I forget to do it. And I'm like, why do I
Same.
stop doing it?
Or
So
you're just too lazy. That's like my thing. I'm oftentimes
yeah.
just too lazy.
Yeah. And then I realized I have so much more energy after I just give myself a little bit of a respite and let my body rehab from my heavy lifting job. And I feel like I want to do other things. And it's like, okay, I have all this extra time that I would normally complain about not having. So yeah, it's been good. I'm so glad you said all of that because just everyone's been like going crazy in the comments. So I was just like, okay, let's like reset this. Everyone's practices are a little different. And for myself, mine change my daily practices based on the intentions I'm trying to manifest. So I think I was speaking on a couple of podcasts back where I was mentioning that I am on a health related spell working right now to aid in weight loss and mental health and physical health and all of that stuff. And I'll probably do a video about that later on in the channel because that's definitely something I don't want anyone to go and do. Please do not do a weight loss spell. Do not do a spell to lose anything. Please. Okay. That's not what I'm saying to do. Okay. I do it differently. Um, But yeah, it kind of changes. And from before that, I was focusing on music and working with Apollo and doing a daily writing with him in the morning before work and dedicating
That's
that
so
time
cool.
for that. Yeah, so it can really adjust based on like your focus at the time. It doesn't have to be the same stagnant thing.
Yeah, that's a great idea, especially to kind of just switch it up,
Yeah.
like basically theme wise, because depending on what kind of person you are, daily practices can get very boring very quickly.
Yes. Yeah, so like double Gemini and Libra right here. I'm just like, can I do three things at once and then never at the same time? Like I don't know. For the longest time I thought I had like ADD because I was just like all over the place with my focuses. And now I'm like, oh, I just get really disinterested quickly because I need stimulation.
I get it though.
Yeah.
I think I don't have a single Gemini placement, but I still get it.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think we all can relate to that feeling of being like lost in the air and like kind of floating around. Okay. What's my next question? I was curious, so what is one of the more important lessons you've learned walking your path so far that you maybe didn't think you would have learned going through your journey? So it could be spiritual based, it could be just lifestyle based. What's something that's like sticking out to you?
Oh, that's such a good question. That's such a good question because my practice has kind of changed my whole entire life. Like before I got into witchcraft and paganism, I was such a miserable, negative person, and that has changed extremely, but I couldn't like pinpoint one specific thing. I would guess though the thing that has, or the biggest thing that has changed for me within my practice is kind of the animism standpoint, because I feel like a lot of people can relate to that when they start out in their practice. They just see a spell and then they see, okay, I need this crystal and this crystal and this herb and this candle, and then I just throw it together and it's just ingredients and I throw them together and they make a spell and it works.
Yeah.
And this kind of journey from that viewpoint to everything has a spirit, and it's not that I'm using something, it's that I'm working with this thing and that I can connect on a spiritual level and on an energetic level with this herb or with the spirit of this crystal or even with the candle. I feel like that is what has changed majorly for me, like I would say in the last 3 years maybe.
Okay, yeah, I love that you said that because that is something I very much relate to. I know when I first started like getting into collecting like supplies, once I realized what I was actually practicing, I started collecting these little subscription boxes, and it was a surprise every month. And
Mm.
every single box I got was an amethyst crystal in it. Every single one. So I actually have a few. I have that point that's in there. There's a little like tiny like um polished stone. There's a bunch of like um let's see. Ugh. This was the first one that I got. And then I got this one gifted to me from my vocal teacher, actually. It was the first crystal I was ever given. And they just kind of like started accumulating. And I was like, okay, obviously I have to like focus on this energy right now and see why. And very much it was opening into my intuition and focusing, and that's what like got me into meditation. So I was like, okay, the spirit's calling out to me. I need to focus on it. And that's kind of what like ushered me down the whole spiritual realm, was just like hyper fast, was focusing on that crystal and just like looking at the energies of what it could teach me.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty special.
I always feel like for a lot of people, as is at least for me, it was the case. Like as soon as you kind of get this animistic worldview, not only does your practice change, but also you as a person changes, because as soon as you realize that everything has a spirit, you just get so much more respect for everything around you.
Mhm.
Like of course, I had respect for like animals and other humans and plants around me and stuff, but it's just on a whole other level. I still remember when I was pretty early on in my practice still, and I kind of started to realize that plants actually have spirits. And
Hmm.
it was spring, and I went on a hike in the forest, and there were a lot of little baby trees, and I was like so hyper fixated on like not stepping on any of the little baby trees because I didn't want to hurt them.
Oh, so cute.
That kind of describes how I'm working now, because I can't kill spiders anymore, and it's like
Yeah, that's actually a thing my boyfriend has helped me with because I hated any type of like spider. I used to have bad dreams about them being in like these larger ones being in the corners of my room, and I felt like it was some type of like message that I can't decipher, but I don't know if it's like they're saying that they're an ally and protecting me because the room I lived in back then had a lot of weird spiritual energy. Um, but I just felt uncomfortable with them because they're creepy, crawly, and fast, and they jump at you. And he actually showed me these little videos. This person animated this little spider. I think it's a jumping spider or something. And
they're so cute.
yeah, they were just trying to like debunk people being scared about spiders and how they can be really sweet. And now I think they're cute. And I don't know how to feel about that, but I still won't touch it, but I still think they're cute.
Yeah, especially these tiny jumping spiders. They're so cute.
Yeah. So now I have a bit of like a feel for them. I even the wasps that bit me all last year in my backyard, a few got into my house and I was like, I can't kill it. So I was like running around with a cup in my house trying to like trap it and try not to get bit.
Yeah, the wasp
Yeah.
struggle. I feel it.
Yeah, yeah. That was a whole other like story. I every time I went into my garden, I got bit on the butt from a wasp because they were like nesting in my yard.
Oh, ooh,
Yeah. So I couldn't get my garden ready last year very quickly. It took me almost the entire summer, but now it's ready.
that sucks.
Yeah, it does. But I made it work. I'm glad that you mentioned plant spirits because that was actually a question that I wanted to ask because it's something very similar that you and I have in our practice working with plant spirits. What would you say are some of your main plant spirits if you feel comfortable sharing that? And if you have any stories, how you got introduced into working with them?
I feel like my biggest plant ally at the moment is definitely mugwort, and it will probably always stay that way. I don't know why, but I just feel so connected to this plant. Maybe it is because it grows everywhere around me. It's so abundant around me, and it's strange because I live in a big city, but
Mhm.
it just grows next to the road and in
Wow.
huge bushes, like they get bigger than me. So
Wow.
they're growing everywhere, and it's crazy. So I feel like the most of the plant spirits that I kind of get introduced to, if that makes sense, or that I feel connected to, I just meet when I go for walks. So
Hmm.
mugwort, I came about while I went on a walk, for example. I always felt extremely connected to oak trees. That is kind of always been the case. Oak trees have always kind of stood out to me. No other trees, but oak trees. Yew trees are, yeah, pretty new. I feel like I kind of connected to them, I think sometime last year.
Hmm.
Juniper bushes, trees, whatever you want to call
Yeah.
them. Um, so a lot of trees for some reason. And especially like it's always one specific tree. For example, I have a cemetery nearby that's basically the most natural place around here where I can go for walks,
Hmm.
which is kind of strange, but it's kind of like it's more of a park
Hmm.
with graves than a real proper cemetery.
Yeah.
And there's like, for example, this one tree, it's a weeping beech. And when I saw that for the first time, I instantly felt connected to it, and I felt drawn to sit under it because there's a bench underneath it.
Hmm.
It's crazy because it's huge, it's old, it's so old, and you kind of sit under this tree right at the trunk, and then you have all the leaves going around you like a protective circle, kind of.
Wow.
this energy just feels like a protective grandma, kind of.
Oh,
That's kind of what it feels like. It's just kind of like a warm, protective grandma who will bake you cookies and stuff.
oh, that's so beautiful. I love that.
Yeah, so whenever I go for walks, I just try to visit all of my plant friends, basically, my spirit friends. Um, yeah, that's basically mostly how I connect to plant spirits, just very intuitively. I will just go for a walk, and then some random plant will pop up to me, and I'm like, oh, that's interesting. I've never seen you, although you've always been here. And then I usually like connect to it more intuitively on a more energetic level.
Mhm.
And then afterwards I will kind of do research about like what you can work with it on and stuff like that. But the first step is always just kind of meeting it and
Yeah.
intuitively connecting to it.
Oh, beautiful. I do the same thing in a lot of ways. We actually have a natural park across the um, train track from us here. So it's a little bit of a walk, but it's really beautiful. It's right on the side of the river, and it's just this bird sanctuary. And with all
Wow.
these like park benches and stuff. And I didn't even know it was here the entire time we had a lockdown. I had no idea. We had this massive park where we could like just go outside and actually like be spaced
No.
out. And I'd be like sitting in my backyard, like, oh, you're too close to my fence. I'm gonna go inside. Um, but now I discovered it and I'm obsessed with it. So I'm going out there all the time and I'm drawing the little areas that pop out to me and practicing some art magic.
Oh, that's cool. That's
Yeah.
such a good idea. I should do that.
Yeah. Art
Maybe
magic is
everyone will
amazing.
steal that.
You should do it. It's amazing. It just come basically what I do is like do a find an intention, find something that calls to me, and I kind of use it as a portal. So I draw out the scene that reminds me, and then that way I have it with me, and I kind of access that energy point at any
That's
point
awesome.
instead of having to go to spell work out in nature and be like, I don't want to like spill a candle and burn things. So I kind of take it with me.
That's awesome. Something that I've done once that I should probably do more often because it's kind of fun, but I rarely ever take the time to do that is to I have like a basically a million houseplants, and I took the time to connect to one of my houseplants, and I drew the plant spirit. Like I kind of got into meditation and connected to the plant spirit
Yeah.
and kind of tried to draw what I saw.
Mhm.
That
I love
was
that.
I should do that more often.
Yeah, I actually had a dream last night about, now that I'm thinking about it, I was shuffling tarot cards. Um, but for some reason it was a card deck that I would never use. It was just this random deck, but the back was really pretty. And in my brain, I was like, I'm gonna like change the front of these cards to like an oracle deck for plants and like a yes or no deck kind of thing, intuitive runes and sigils that I've created, stuff like that, just for spell work. So if I need a certain type of energy and I don't know what sigil to pull, I'll just shuffle it and kind of throw it out there. And it just made me think about that because I completely forgot about it. But now I think I want to go and like doctor that deck I have up there because it's a gothic deck, but I don't relate to it anymore. So I
That's
might
such a
just,
good idea though.
yeah, I'm excited. Yay, art magic. And my child comes outside. Uh, I'm basically a child in an adult body. Um,
I always feel like I'm an 85-year-old grandma in an adult body, so
that too. It's like it's a weird combo because I'm like I like cross stitching, I like knitting and like reading and being in the house.
drinking my tea.
Yeah, literally. I literally just got this tea for Christmas. It's a Earl Grey chai thing, and it's like little flowerets, and you pour it over, and it melts, and it's like a
That
loose
sounds
leaf tea.
fancy.
It does, and it's the only way that I have ever drank loose leaf tea, but it's because it's fun.
You should get
Like
a tea flower.
Mhm. Oh, and that's another thing. Oh, okay, now I just want to start talking about tea, which is weird. But have you seen these tea gems? They're on Instagram, and someone has created these little teas to look like crystals, and they're 100% vegan. They are beautiful. I'll send you the link in Instagram so
Mhm.
you can check them out. But they're so pretty, and I'm like, this is the thing that I would want for Christmas. When I'm saying I don't want anything, this is the kind of thing I want. Is these little tea gems, and they're so beautiful, and you just pour the hot water over them. They're bright and really flavorful, and I just want to get them.
That sounds fun.
Yeah, they're so fun. It's like a special thing to do for yourself. Instead of boxes
Mhm.
of chocolates for Valentine's Day, that's what I want.
Yeah,
Crystals,
it
crystal tea.
kind of feels like a bath bomb or something.
Yeah,
You don't need it, but it's fun and it's self-care.
yeah, it is. It's just a special little thing. Like, why not? Okay. So I have about 6.5 minutes before my thing's gonna cut out on me. Um, So I did want to get into this, but I definitely want to have you back on because this is so much fun. Um,
Yes, I would love to be back.
Yay. I think my tea is kicking in. I'm getting hyper. Okay, so one question I did want to uh, touch on before we leave the podcast is, if someone was wanting to get into the Norse path or looking into Norse magic of any kind, do you have any resources for them that you found really helpful for yourself? And yeah, do you have any books or resources at all?
Yes. I feel like of course it's important to read the Eddas and the Sagas. Of course. But I always feel like that can be a little bit much for a full-on beginner because of course they're not that easy to read because of course they're old. So the book that I really like to get into the mythology part is Norse Mythology by Neil Gaiman. It's more like just a normal fiction book that you would read. It's very fun. Of course, it's Neil Gaiman, so it's fun. Um, it's not 100% accurate, but as long as you know that, like he will kind of fill in some gaps with his own imagination. And as long as you're aware of that, that's fine. But I feel like for beginners, it's great. Something else that I really like that's more about the practice nowadays is The Way of Fire and Ice by Ryan Smith. Because there are like a million beginner Asatru and beginner Norse paganism books, but this one is especially about inclusive Norse paganism. So it also talks about which groups and symbols and stuff to like avoid and
Mhm.
not get into because there are a lot, of course.
Yes.
So that's why I really, really like that book. And a book that I'm actually reading at the moment because it's very new, I think it came out in 2022, is basically just a book on, in general, the Viking Age. And that is The Children of Ash and Elm by Neil Price. Neil Price is amazing. He's an archaeologist and he specializes in the Viking Age. So he's crazy knowledgeable. And this book is like a 600-page book on everything surrounding the Viking Age.
Hmm.
So I feel like that's why it's amazing because it kind of gives you the knowledge about the culture from which this mythology stems from. And I feel like that's very important. So like I feel like with these 3 books, you have kind of a good starting point for everything.
Okay, amazing. So, would you like to let anyone know where they can find you, maybe promote your shop, all that kind of stuff, and then they can check you out, and I'll have everything in the show notes below.
Definitely. I think I'm the Norse Witch on basically every social media platform, sometimes with underscores in between, sometimes not. I don't remember where the underscores are, but on some platforms there are underscores and on some they're not. If you're looking for me and you see an image with a bald person, then that's me. So that's probably the right way to go. Yeah, I have a witchy shop where I sell basically everything surrounding witchcraft and paganism. So like herbs, crystals, candles, a lot of handmade stuff, which it is called Sacred Sorcery. It's both on Etsy and I have my own website. Yeah. I guess that's it.
That's it. Okay, perfect. I'll have everything linked down below. So I know we're all dealing with a little bit of scammers. I actually got one who's like stole one of my photos of my book. Um,
Oh,
yeah, so my grimoire, and I was like, okay. So I'll definitely link everything down below so you guys don't have to question what accounts there are. And thank you so much for joining me. This was a lot of fun, and
thank
I
you
can't
so
wait.
much for having me.
Of course, this was awesome. I can't wait to dive into more stuff with you.